So let's get cracking with the press preview, shall we? It's a first look at what is on the front pages. And tonight we'll check out the headlines with the political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, and former barrister and former government minister, Ann Soubry. Great to see you both. We shall chat in a moment after we've had a look at those front pages for you. Well, after the shotgun cartridge security alert at Buckingham Palace, the Metro reports that a ring of steel has been thrown around King Charles for Saturday's coronation. According to the front of the Mail, it's the biggest security operation ever. While the Mirror says police have warned there's to be swift action against any anti-monarchy demonstrations that turn to criminality. While the Eye looks beyond the coronation and says the plan is for the King to help mend the UK's toxic relationship with the rest of Europe after Brexit. The Express reports that scientists are on the brink of a new drug treatment for Alzheimer's disease, which could help millions of sufferers. And in fact, it's the same lead story for tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, as you can see there. While The Guardian claims an exclusive with a report on the extent of historic links between the slave trade and some of Britain's top schools. And The Star picks up on growing fears about the effect on us all of artificial intelligence with the headline, "He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty chatbot." Here's the FT reporting that the head of the London Stock Exchange wants higher pay for UK company bosses to stop them moving overseas. And The Sun tells us that singer Taylor Swift has a new boyfriend, the frontman of the band, the 1975 Matty Healy. And don't forget, you can scan that QR code that you see on screen during the programme. Check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us discussing them. And to discuss them, Kevin Schofield and Ann Soubry. Lots to talk about this evening. Anna, why don't we kick off with you, front page of the Eye, talking about the coronation, but more in the context of what's going to happen afterwards. And their headline that Charles III plans to help lead Brexit detox with Europe, but we know that he chose his first state visit to be in Germany, didn't he? He was going to go to Bordeaux in France. That had to get cancelled, but there is a plan, I think, to perhaps send him there later on in the year.
Yes, I think this is actually really quite interesting because we know that the trip to Germany was hugely successful. He was, as you say, he was meant to be going to France, but because of all the protests against Macron's plans over pensions, they just couldn't have that visit. So he went to Germany. It was very successful. What the Eye is saying is that after the coronation, he's going to help repair our damaged relations, primarily with France, and go with Sunak, the Prime Minister, to sort of smooth the waters and do a better job with working with France and the other member states of the European Union. And whatever your views on Brexit, mine are widely known, that must be a good thing. As I say, whatever your views on Brexit, we have to work much, much better with those people right on our doorstep, especially when it comes to trade. So perhaps we're going to be seeing the beginning of a more sensible relation with the European Union, and who knows where that might lead to.
Yeah, but Anna, does it not ring any alarm bells that the monarch getting a little political?
No. I mean, it is absolutely the role of the monarch when there are important relationships to either create or to encourage or to grow, or if they're damaged, to repair. And the monarchy has, working closely with France. I mean, anybody who has a problem with that, frankly, has a huge problem anyway. This must be right, and I don't think it's overly political at all. It makes a lot of sense.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as it's done properly, then I think it should be okay. I mean, obviously we know that the way our system works is that the monarch is the head of state but tries to rise above politics. But at the same time, the royal family is an important soft power tool for the UK. And yeah, as Anna says, the state visit to Germany surpassed all expectations. I think it was incredibly successful. And I think maybe Rishi Sunak has spotted that and sees an opportunity now to use Prince Charles. I keep saying Prince Charles, to use King Charles as that that way of rebuilding bridges, because there's no doubt that in the wake of Brexit, relationships with European capitals has been hugely damaged over the last several years, and anything that can be done to patch that up, I think, has to be a good thing.
OK, well, let's stay with the King, but talk about more pressing matters. The countdown to the coronation, 2 days to go. The Metro ring of steel thrown around Charles. A bit worrying, Anna, wasn't it, this incident yesterday evening? And according to the Metro, they're saying that the plan has been reviewed after that man was arrested outside the front of the palace.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, though, because what you don't want is somebody who, and apparently the man that was responsible for this had mental health problems, but you don't want that one person who may or may not have mental health problems, but getting through, who might be an actual threat either to the King or to somebody else in this great state occasion, but with, of course, so many other heads and very senior members of other states there as well. So it makes a huge amount of sense to revisit it, to make sure that what will be a hugely happy occasion is in no way spoiled. But I mean, I think some of this is a bit over the top, but the idea that there's going to be some clampdown on protesters and so on and so forth. I mean, I think that's a lot of puff, and it was a bit disappointing to hear the government minister going out talking about it. I think that, which is a different matter to a security threat, but that's just been over puffed to sort of cause trouble when there is no trouble.
A beautiful picture on the front of tomorrow's Mail of the Gold State coach. That early morning rehearsal taking place. Kevin, their Mail have gone for biggest security operation ever as well. I mean, the police are saying that they're welcoming these new laws which will let them really clamp down on any disruptive protests. What have you made about those comments today?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to use those powers carefully, though. I mean, I don't think the message we want to send around the world is that we clamp down on protests. I think we have a pretty proud tradition in this country of being able to demonstrate and robust debate about matters such as this. Now, you can argue whether it's the time or the place to be mounting protests. Some would argue it's the perfect time to be protesting about the monarchy. That being said, I think they'll very much be in the minority among the crowds that are there. But I mean, as long as it's done peacefully, then I don't see a problem with it myself. And as I say, I don't think the police will want to be too heavy-handed, because the eyes of the world will be on London on Saturday, and it's important that we send out the right message, and hopefully it all passes off without any incident.
Kevin, let's stay with you for a changing story, talking about that rather bizarre incident over the Kremlin. Just looking at the Telegraph, Russian hawks demand brutal revenge after drone hits Kremlin. What did you make of this story?
Yeah, it is quite bizarre. I mean, these are unverified reports from Russia of a drone attack on the Kremlin, explosions above the Kremlin. Now, Russia are insisting that this was a terrorist attack by Ukraine, an attempt to assassinate Vladimir Putin, which, if true, would be an incredible development, really. I mean, this is one of the most heavily protected men on the planet. So if this was genuinely what happened, then you have to raise serious questions, I think, about Russian security systems. However, a lot of people are taking what Moscow is saying with a heavy pinch of salt. Unsurprisingly, now it's being used as a pretext to up the ante, effectively, as far as the invasion of Ukraine is concerned. The hawks around Vladimir Putin are saying that they have to go in even harder now as a retaliation. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky is in Finland at the moment, and he said categorically that Ukraine had nothing at all to do with this, that the fighting they're doing is on their own land against the Russian invaders, that they've got no interest in taking the war to Russia. Now, Western officials have said it, as I say, it's unverified, so they've not been able to say one way or another. But as I say, I think I would be pretty sceptical about what Russia says happens, because, as I say, this is now being used as a pretty clear pretext to intensify the bombardment of Ukraine.
Yeah, the Kremlin saying it's an assassination attempt. And as you say, Zelensky saying we don't attack Putin or Moscow, we fight on our territory. But Anna, as Kevin was saying there, it could be an excuse, couldn't it, to not only up the rhetoric, but up attacks on Ukraine and potentially Kiev.
Yeah, that is the real fear, isn't it? That it is just a false flag. It is just being done as an excuse to do exactly that. It looks like some sort of large firework. I mean, the idea that that's an attempt to assassinate anybody is just ludicrous. But, excuse me, it is more the rhetoric around it that is concerning. And right, we are right to be concerned about that, because, as we know, this war has not been the success that Putin thought it was going to be. It drags on, which is terrible for the Ukraine people, but it is also bad for those people in Russia whose sons are being killed in the way that they are being killed out there. But it drags on, and you would have thought that Putin would want to amp everything up, because he's failed miserably. He said it was going to be all over in days.
Our correspondent in Moscow saying it's quite surreal, this attack happening just days before they commemorate Victory Day in Russia. Welcome back, part 2 of the press preview. Kevin and Anna are still with us. Front page of the Daily Telegraph. Anna, we need some good news, don't we? We desperately need some good news. And the Telegraph, front of the Express, I think, as well, have supplied it. Best ever Alzheimer's drug can halt disease. This was very encouraging news, wasn't it? British scientists saying that the trial of this new drug is hugely exciting, and the Alzheimer's Society even saying it signals the beginning of the end of Alzheimer's. There have been a few breakthroughs. We have to be careful about using that word breakthrough, Anna, don't we? But there have been a few breakthroughs when it comes to Alzheimer's recently. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, the reaction is, gosh, I hope you're right. I hope it is the beginning of the end, because it is. I think we're all familiar with what a horrible, terrible disease it is, and absolutely steals a person long before they actually pass away. And this drug, they are saying that they're a number of years before it's going to get into the NHS and so on. But as you rightly say, this is yet another drug or a treatment which is giving real hope to people that this is going to now be something that we can properly tackle. And it all comes down to research, and that actually comes down to money. And you look at what David Cameron tried to do. Whatever your views on David Cameron back in 2010, he was adamant he was going to set up some really good, serious money into research. And when we put the money into research, whether it's through taxpayers or whether it's through the generosity of ordinary people, and we put it into whether it's cancer or, as we've seen with Alzheimer's, which was always I think a lot of us thought a bit of a Cinderella disease, didn't quite get the sort of sympathy, if you like, from a giving point of view into that research. But my goodness me, it pays off, and we're beginning to see that now. So let's hope it is this big breakthrough, and it's the beginning of the end of it.
Well, let's hope so, Kevin. As Anna says there, it's some way off becoming available, and that's because the trials haven't been without upset. 2 volunteers, possibly a third, died after dangerous swelling to the brain who took part in this. The company saying, like many effective treatments for debilitating and fatal diseases, there are associated risks that may be serious and life-threatening. So there's some way to go, but nonetheless, it would be fantastic, wouldn't it, to be rid of this awful disease?
Well, it would be an absolutely incredible breakthrough if that were to be the case. I mean, not least because obviously we have an ageing population, therefore more people and more of us are likely to unfortunately be affected or afflicted by this disease. So, anything that raises hopes of a successful treatment or a way of at least slowing down the process would be a phenomenal breakthrough, and hopefully help even ease the pressure on the National Health Service as well, that is obviously caused by this disease. So yeah, fingers crossed. But as you say, we're not there yet. More research has to take place, more tests have to be carried out. But thus far, anyway, it looks, certainly from these initial results, that's extremely promising, and hopefully it will continue.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And Anna, let's finish very quickly with this on the front of the FT. I mean, this is going to upset people who are struggling to feed themselves, isn't it? Executives should be paid even more.
I know this is from the boss of the London Stock Exchange, Julia Hoggart, who's making the point that, I mean, she's looking at the market. And look, when I say there's an analogy with, say, junior doctors, obviously not in terms of pay. I mean, apparently the average chief executive's pay now is £3.9 million a year. And obviously people are going to say, what? And the chief executive of the London Stock Exchange says we're going to have to pay people more. I think the point she's trying to make is that there is a market, and that's exactly what the junior doctors are saying. They're saying, yeah, there is a market, and we can be paid an awful lot more if we go to Australia. And if you want to recruit and retain, you're going to have to pay us more. And I know in my profession, at the bar, we're in exactly the same. We don't have enough. But this front page of the FT, and this claim that extremely well-paid people should be paid even more is not going to go down very well at all.
Kevin, we've only got about 15 seconds for one quick thought.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to the first politician that goes into an election saying that they will raise pay for chief executives. So unfortunately, I can see why she's saying it, but I don't think this one is going to fly, unfortunately, for her.